I was asked a question in turn by a famous religious broadcaster on the air. He said, you have to imagine the following. You are in a strange city, and it's late in the evening, and you don't know anyone, and you don't know your way around, and the night is coming on, and you see coming towards you a group of men. Now he says, you must answer this question. He said, do you feel better or worse, happier or less happy, safer or less safe, once you know that these men are coming from a prayer meeting? In my book, I try and answer the question. I say, well, just without leaving the letter B, I have been in those circumstances in the following cities: Belfast, Beirut, Bombay, Baghdad, and one other. Let's just do the first four. If anyone's ever spent any time in Belfast, they'd know right away to try and find a place of hiding and safety if they were caught on the streets when the churches were letting people out at dusk. Or there's hardly been a non-religious murder in Belfast in the last 30 years. It's a very dangerous place to be once the religious are abroad, especially if it's gangs of men, as specified in the question. And it's been for decades a hellhole because of the confessional system that insists that political power is allocated only to people who can show that they're members of a faith. It doesn't particularly matter in the Lebanese constitution which faith. There's a pecking order, but it has to be confessional. And as a result, Lebanon is retarded in its development, unsafe at almost any time of day, most especially when the churches and the mosques are letting people out onto the street. That's when to be most careful. To say that this was true in Belgrade, and to say what effect religion had in the breakup of Yugoslavia, there is no ethnic difference between being a Serb and a Croat, for example, none whatever. It's a difference only between being Eastern Orthodox in the case of the Serb and Roman Catholic in the case of the Croat. And that's a killing matter. All across Western Herzegovina and Bosnia and larger tracts of the rest of the country, as soon as the churches started to let people out, having preached their doctrine about the heretical nature of the other Christians, the other believers, every kind of mayhem was let loose. Again, I say, this is not done in the name of God, as people say. It's not done in the name of religion. That's not an out that I think can be offered. It's done because of religion. It arises because of the very preachments that are in the text, and it relies ultimately and derives ultimately from the servile belief that our problems can be solved if we will only refer them upward to a supernatural despotism, to a dictator whose verdicts cannot be challenged, to a dictator who, so far from giving us free will, says we can be convicted of thought crime, sentenced to an eternity of punishment for things we may have thought in our sleep, or thought and not yet done. As I say, I'll close on this, the emancipation of humanity demands first and foremost the emancipation of the idea of a supernatural dictator. Thank you.